Yes.
We will start with this beautiful shloka. My daughters will be singing with me as well. So this is lead and follow. So please, I will repeat the first line, and you guys can all at your end repeat after me. Om Astoma Sadgamaya
Asato ma sadgamaya.
Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya
Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya.
Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya.
Mrityorma amritam
Amritam Gamaya.
gamaya.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om
Om
Shanti
Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Shanti.
I will read the meaning from the screen for everyone to hear and understand. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you. So I'll be stopping now the home sharing. Just okay, so you guys can hear me, Munaji?
Hanji.
Okay, thank you. So again, once again, welcome to all of you. We'll be talking a little bit about the NAHA, and then we'll begin the whole our session today. So NAHA is basically BC registered society, and we are a team of dedicated volunteers that want to contribute towards realizing equitable rights and recognition for the Hindus of North America. So we welcome you all to this family of like-minded individuals to collectively protect Hindu values and also share the great wealth of knowledge from our Vedas and Upanishads. So please join us and be a part of this dedicated team. We can go through our website. It's a www.hindusofna.ca.
Your voice is off, G.
Okay. So as today's session is hosted by Sundar Rajanji, who is a Srimad Bhagavad Gita Adhyay, and I should say in few words, he is a sadhak and sajag yatri. But today he'll be letting us begin a journey of understanding the Srimad Bhagavad Gita and how we can implement into this into our day-to-day life. So please, I'm welcoming him from our NAHA group, Sundar Rajanji, to begin this spiritual journey under the umbrella of Srimad Bhagavad Gita ji. So welcome Sundar Rajanji, you can please continue.
Pranam Ji and Pranam everybody. Thank you for all being here on a Vijayadashami day. Happy Vijayadashami to all of you. And traditionally, it is said that beginning Vijayadashami is also called Vidyarambha. So beginning your studies on Vijayadashami is especially great in our culture and tradition. So with that in mind, and with a bowing to Mata Durga, we will start our session today. And the idea of the session today is going to be understanding what structure and why we should be learning Gita. And I'll make a small presentation or a case to you so that you will have an expectation set as we go from week to week and your involvement. Basically, I'm assuming that the audience here is of a wide range of people, from people who are very new to Gita to people who are already familiar and are living the spirit of Gita. So with that in mind, we want to do justice for both end of the spectrum. So if we go with one, the other gets bored. If you go with the other, the first one gets too overwhelmed. So with that in mind, I'll start sharing my screen. Let me know if you can see it or when you can see it. Can you see my screen, everybody?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, it's loading up. So with again, with our hearts at the feet of Durga Mata, we'll start the Bhagavad Gita. So as you have done the prayojana, we'll start with the prayojana. Prayojana in the Indian context is whenever you start something, there has to be a reason why we are doing it. So we never do anything that's aprayojaka karya, meaning we will not do something without a purpose. So this first 5-10 minutes or maybe 20 minutes is going to talk about why we should learn the Gita. What is the dharmic education model? I'll tell you exactly what it is, and then you'll understand why we need that before we start any study, and why we need a parampara based bhashya, meaning why we don't just get the Gita bhashya out of an English book or some booklet or a dictionary. If I know the meanings, wouldn't I know the Gita by heart? So many people have that questions too. And is Gita relevant today in the modern day? Because Gita was delivered like 5,000 years ago, right? Before, in Dwapar Yuga. And Arjuna's problems, is it relevant today in the modern society? So that will be also be addressed. And we'll see what the scientist and thinker have to say about Bhagavad Gita or Vedanta, as opposed to, how many of the youngsters think that Gita is all, or even Hinduism is all religious and old fashioned. I used to be one of those guys. And we'll see why science and spirituality, especially the dharmic spirituality, is intertwined. And then we'll talk about the session format and content. And today we'll go with the Gita Dhyana Shlokas. Sounds good? At any point, if you have a question, please put it in the chat window. So, at the end of it, we'll have some time for the question answer session and we'll go over that. So I won't say hold on to your questions, but just put it in the chat window. And in 90% of the cases, most of the questions will be answered in the progressing slides themselves. Prayojana. When I was a kid, and most of us, we used to think Bhagavad Gita was used for, it's a fat book that was used in the court for only one thing, मैं जो कुछ कहूंगा सच केवल कुछ नहीं कहूंगा, and that was the end of it. And because it was shown as a very thick book, it demotivated me from even trying to learn, not even learning, trying to learn also, I wouldn't do it. Till I understood that the Gita is only 700 shlokas and it actually fits in a booklet in your pocket. And I still have the book I used to be carrying around like 30 years ago and reading through it. So it is a very easy to read text if you want the Mool shlokas. I've shared it in the NAHA Bhagavad Gita WhatsApp group, but I'll do that again for those who join newly, a PDF version of the Mool shlokas. Okay. So the reason we should learn the Bhagavad Gita and why it is very important is most of our thinking is muddled with the Western idea of Dharma or Hinduism. We confuse Dharma with religion, with one God, and with a very uniform idea as the rest of the world sees it. That is called the etic view of Hinduism. And what we ourselves should know is the emic view, meaning the inside or the parampara based view of Sanatana Dharma. Especially for the youngsters, don't worry if it is too hard in the beginning. But as you go, you'll start seeing that every word or every chapter of the Gita is extremely implementable and will actually make you a great leader to be able to face your stress and strain, and also not only help yourself, the self-help book, but it will also help others. Okay. And second, like we said earlier, we'll know why dharma is relevant in this day and age. And we'll also know the means and goals to spiritual freedom, meaning when dharma, all Hindus talk about moksha. What is moksha? Moksha is ultimate freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from daily anxieties, freedom from the daily, asha, pasha, and moha. So basically, all the stress and strain that happens, and freedom from being trapped in a very small confine and thinking that I am somehow limited. So give me 1 second while I see the annotation, or if somebody can clear out the annotation, that will be great. People are very artistic, so we'll make sure of that. Okay. So going back to this, so to understand and propagate the Gita, we need that for the next generation. Otherwise, the whole of Sanatana Dharma will die out with this generation. Our parents have at least brought it to our doorstep. And the least we can do is to give it to our children and inspire them to give it to the next. Otherwise, an entire civilization dies. At least for that, you'll have to start learning. I'm not talking about only kids. Many parents think that their kids should learn Bhagavad Gita. And I say, you have to learn it also. There is no excuse. If I don't do it, my children won't do it. And I have no right to expect them to teach it to their children. Right? So, in order to protect Dharma, we need to take it up. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Okay. So far, if it is clear, everybody good? I can see you all. So audio feedback is also good. You can, say yes or no.
Yes, Sundarajanji.
Perfect.
It's good
Yes,
speak.
And
it's making
Yeah,
nice.
sense.
all good.
Good. And the main reason is to continuously improve ourselves. That we owe to ourselves.
Yes.
I should be a better person than I was yesterday. And I should inspire other people to be a better person than they are. And Gita actually helps me personally in my personal life at home and also in my work. It takes it to become a better person and make a good working environment and a good family environment. So I've seen that change from being an atheist to being a Vedanti or a Bhagavad Gita premi. So that change automatically happens. It kind of rewires your brain. Having said that, I promised earlier that we'll talk about the dharmic education model. Now, what does that mean? I'll tell you, many people have this question as to why is the Veda or even the Gita very contradictory? Okay. At one point, they'll say, have more kids, get married. Veda says that, get married and, be a grihastha. At another place, it will say, give up all the duties and become a sannyasi. Gita, at one point, it will say, you have to follow karma. Another place, it says, jnanena moksha. Right? And there seems to be a huge contradiction. And the question often comes up as to which one is correct. Don't confuse me. Even Arjuna has this question at the beginning of chapter 3. Now, if you want to understand that, you have to see this as a dharmic education model. When I keep on saying dharmic, I mean Hinduism. When I say Hinduism, it is dharmic. So interchangeably. Okay. So it is not just one book that has every solution in the universe for you. It is one subject or a topic that is split according to what we call the adhikari, meaning the person. Think of yourself going at from kindergarten level to a university or post graduation level. Your subject was the same, but it kept on evolving because your mind keeps evolving, and the way you could digest those subject has to be catered rightly to you. So if I take a second grade, second class science book and a PhD science book or a post graduation science book, it won't be the same. The level of intensity increases and the level of focus also increases. Same way, here when you see the column here, I say spiritual level because an ideal person grows with age and spiritual maturity during the Gurukulam days. Nowadays, we grow in age, but our spiritual level kind of stagnates at some point. So, the best way that Sanatana Dharma used to teach or train kids is starting with small, small bhajans or lullabies. Even our lullabies are beautifully Vedantic. They talk about Krishna, they talk about, and the bhajans, they also have Tum Antaryami, Tum Par Brahma Parameshwar. The Parabrahma concept also comes in the Arti, small bhajans, everything. A child learns all this through observation. That is why it is extremely important to go to the temple. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. But you have no right to stop a child from not believing, right? That much you owe to the next generation. So going to the temple has a very important purpose That is for the next generation to see, observe, and probably their Purva Janma Vasanas will kick in for them to become spiritually evolved, right? So as parents, that's what we need to do. Introduce themselves to the puja and arati and bhajan concept. And then you go into Murti Puja. Murti Puja is basically small abhishek, and give them a tiny Vinayaka or a Shivling and ask them to do abhishek every day. It is theirs to keep, because at that point the mind is Eka Rupa Ishvara Bhakti, meaning there is a God. God has one form, and this is my personal God, right? And they cultivate that bond with Krishna. It's called Ishtadevata, with Krishna, with Rama, and as your internal personality is a kind of God that you want. So if you're a bodybuilder, Hanuman becomes your Ishtadevata, or if you're a knowledge seeker, Saraswati becomes an Ishtadevata, or Lakshmi Devi or Durga Devi. So your internal representation automatically latches on to one of the swarupas of Bhagavan, because Bhagavan has Aneka Swarupa. Eka Rupa Ishvara Bhakti happens. Okay, so far clear, right? And then your mind graduates, and at that point, Hinduism or the Dharmic Guru tells you, Ekarupa Ishvara Bhakti is great, but have you seen this? Have you observed that Bhagavan is omnipresent? He can take Aneka Rupa. So everywhere you see, you will find Bhagavan. You'll find Bhagavan in the tree. You'll find Bhagavan in the Mother Earth is Bhagavan. Nadi is Bhagavan. So we are talking currently, you're talking about green earth and eco-friendly and all those things. Our ancestors were always eco-friendly, always green. And for anybody who talks about green, eco, earth friendly, should actually go back and revisit how the ancients had lived their life by treating nature with respect. When you treat nature with respect, you stop destroying it. So all that adharma that is happening against nature today is because we have given up our respect for nature. So Aneka Rupa Ishvara Bhakti teaches you that God is everywhere. And once you understand this, the Guru does another thing. Now you're mature enough. He'll say, look, my son, or look, my daughter, look inside. God is not just outside. God is formless, and God, the Saguna Ishvara, is inside. It's called Arupa Ishvara Bhakti. So you start going into meditation, internal inquiry. You start searching for that God in your Atma, Antaratma, right? So in the heart. So the pranayama and the pratyahara and all those things that comes at the undergraduation, where you're learning. Initially you're searching outside, then you're slowly transforming that search inside. Okay. And here Prakarana Granthas are introduced, like Panchadashi or Tattva Bodha, Atma Bodha, all those things are introduced at that point. And then you transition into Nirguna, Nirakara, Satchitananda Swarupa. When I say that at this point, if it is a big word, absolutely no problem. It simply means Paramatma, who is Sarvavyapi, everywhere. And there higher texts are involved or invoked, like Prasthanatraya, Mandukya, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Brahma Sutra. That is Prasthanatraya. So that is introduced, and you have an understanding, a very intellectual understanding of, okay, this is Paramatma. I am the Atma, but you have no understanding there. And finally, you become a master when you realize, Aham Brahmasmi. The God that I have been searching for is me. I've been searching for myself all through. Every janma, throughout samsara, I've been bhatakta raha main, searching for God. But finally, I understand that I am that. When you understand that, you graduate, and that is called moksha, jnanena moksha. Okay. Now, I want to take a small, probably in the question answer session, somebody remind me, we'll talk about the four Mahavakyas and how all the four Mahavakyas are connected. As a mathematical equation, they are connected. Okay. If you don't remind me, I will forget it. So, Dharmic education model at this point, do you understand? Okay. And Bhagavad Gita, when you see it, it is also structured exactly like that. It takes Arjuna, who is a complete samsari and a confused person, it takes him from chaos to clarity. If you see the second adhyaya, Okay, when Bhagavan speaks, he speaks only in the second adhyaya. First adhyaya, he doesn't talk. In the second adhyaya, he doesn't use the word Atma because that's a big concept. Atma is a big concept. Arjuna will not understand that. So he uses words like Shariri or Dehi. Arjuna understands Deha. Deha is like body. So there is something inside the body that's called Dehi. Sharir to pata hai. I mean, sorry, Sharir, everybody knows. So that indweller of the body does this, does that, and though all those things, concepts, is explained as Shariri or Dehi. And Sri Krishna takes him right from what is the known into the unknown. Okay, that is how the dharmic education model works. Now, I have a question, and you can unmute yourself. Does Bhagavad Gita mean the same thing to everyone? Like everybody who reads the Bhagavad Gita, does it mean the same thing to you? Right? Everybody reads it and the same understanding? Okay.
No.
No.
No,
It's
right?
not possible.
No.
Best
Not
example for this, some will say, we'll see what. But the best example for this is an elephant in a very dark room. And people who have never seen an elephant come touch it. And this is an old Indian story. They've touched it, they cannot see it because it's in a dark room. And one thinks of it as a snake. Some says it's a mat, and one says it's they touch the tusk and say it's a spear or a tree or a wall and such. But the elephant is a holistic thing. Same thing with Bhagavad Gita. One will talk about it as, I want to start learning the shlokas or learn Sanskrit, the meaning of the shlokas and all those things. Some want to go deeper into the karma and bhakti and jnana. Okay. What is bhakti and where does it fit in? Is bhakti higher than karma? So we'll get into that as we go. But at this point, I'm giving you an idea as to the different kinds of preconceived notions we have about Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Some want to learn about the purpose of life as per dharma and all those things. And some want to may have lost a loved one and they want to gain that solace. So that's why you read the Bhagavad Gita when somebody passes away. Chapter 8 or chapter 15, Purushottam Yoga and all those things. And then you have specific interest. Some want to learn meditation and detachment, and for some it is just curiosity in Gita. The historical curiosity. So, how many people were there in the war, or who was the general, and those kind of things. All that is already there in the Gita, but it has much, much more to offer than just these one or two things. Having said that, any amount of curiosity you have, or any amount of willingness you have, even to touch one part of the ocean, is enough. If you have drank water from one part of the river, you drank water from every part of the river, meaning it's going to be the same. Water is water. Same thing with Gita. You take what you can take and then keep going deeper and deeper, and you have like Gita has bigger treasures to offer. So we'll start wherever you want to start, and at the end I'll be asking you some questions as to, as a group, where should we start focusing, how we want to take it, because this is not me pushing down the Gita down your throat. No, absolutely not. This is very democratic. You have to be involved for you to start learning. And one thing I want to say, this whole session is not about me. It is not about Bhagavad Gita also. It is not about Krishna. It is not about Arjuna. The entire focus, you are the hero of this story. This whole thing is for you and you alone. Okay. So don't think that you are there as a hindrance, or if you talk, something is going to happen, but you are the main focus, right? Without which, all of the Bhagavad Gita, it's just a show. So keep that in mind. The question is, I love this quote, so I put it here. The question is not what you look at, but what you see. So when you look at the Bhagavad Gita, initially it's just looking at the Gita. And and this has happened to me multiple times. I read the Bhagavad Gita, same shloka. A few years later, it will give me a completely new meaning. And you pick it up a few days later, it will give you a completely different meaning. So Bhagavad Gita shlokas will, the new meanings will start popping up as our levels of ignorance is removed one layer by one layer. So this is something that I want to put it out there, and I want to see how many of you also observe the same thing as you go. Now, I have an open question. So here I won't be silent. So unmute and let's make it fun, right? So what is so great about the Bhagavad Gita? Why should you care? It's a silent class. Anybody can talk.
Mainly that is why we are here to learn.
Okay. No, but what is so great about the Gita? I mean, you're here. I could have talked about Shakespeare, right? So why Gita? What's so great about it? Or why not some other text? Why not Mahabharata? Right? Okay. If nobody is ready, and
I mean,
I'm telling, Mhm.
I can speak what I feel about it, but again,
Please.
that's we were here to learn more.
Mhm.
But again, as the topic itself says, as you already pointed rightly, so it teaches you how we can live in this world
Very nice.
without getting, we see ourselves as Arjuna, and it is as relevant as it was 5,000 or more years ago.
Mhm.
And so Arjuna asked all those questions from Bhagwan for us, and we 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 can see ourselves still having so much
Good.
confusion. So basically, it helps you to live your life easily.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much. So there are a few points that I put forth, but every answer is the right answer. One thing I see about Bhagavad Gita is perhaps it's the only text that was delivered by Bhagavan directly. It is not, and mark my words, this is not Krishna Gita. There is not a single line in Bhagavad Gita that says Sri Krishna Uvacha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, 100%, always. All other text will be about Bhagavan, or it'll be, Parvati Uvacha or Mahadeva Uvacha and all. Bhagavan Uvacha, this is the first one, as a major text that everybody reads. And it is full of the Upanishadic truths, meaning those who are unable to read the Vedas. People say, I want to read the Veda. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, the essence of all the Vedas that are in the Upanishad is already taken and given to you in a very digestible format. And it explains the Jiva Yatra. When I say Jiva Yatra, I cannot see myself as a person living in the 21st century somewhere in Canada. I've traveled through so many bodies before, and this is one of the travel, one of the area I'm traveling through. So Bhagavad Gita explains how that travel happens and how to do a like you have financial planning, you also have spiritual planning. You're given a human body for a purpose, right? You've taken this body for a purpose. What we do, we squander it. We say, okay, human body mil gaya, okay, chalo maza karo. Sorry, I'm going into Hindi, but you say you got a human body, so let's enjoy, right? Or run after, rat race of life, mortgage, you have to run after the mortgage, you have to run after something else. At the end of the life, there'll be regrets as to I did not make a good use of life. And Bhagavad Gita tells you how to make a good use of life here and beyond this, right? So it becomes a manual, like we said earlier, a life manual that takes you to success here and to success in the next phase of life. Okay. It's extremely practical to follow, and it caters to the wide variety of audience from the beginners to advanced. You will see as we go in Bhagavad Gita, when I come to the last pages, it'll take you from the beginner level. Even atheists can follow Bhagavad Gita and be influenced by it and take, you have takeaways from it. And it covers the entire Dharma in one book. That's why every single, uh, what do you call it, stalwart, like Adi Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, you name them, Sant Eknath or Jnaneshwar, everybody has sworn by this Bhagavad Gita. Every other book, they have their own favorites, but this is everybody's favorite because this is the essence of Dharma. You read this one book, you understand this one book, you'll need nothing else in life. Every other book will be a reference that you can take from here and proceed, but this is the main stop. Okay. So that is why it is very important to understand the Gita. But you already know it. Now, I know we have one or two people, but I wanted to have a very quick question as to why did Krishna not teach Bhagavad Gita to Duryodhana? Why go for a war? If Duryodhana knew Bhagavad Gita, then there would be no problem. Like he would be detached, and the war would not have happened. So all that crores and crores of people would not have died, right? Question number one. Anybody wants to attempt this? A yes, no would be enough.
He was blind by his ego, Duryodhana,
Okay.
and he, we from the TV episode or serials we watched, we could make it out that he was not ready to listen at all. Even they, all the Kauravas, they even tried to put him in jail,
Hmm.
or
And he was not
so
ready to
they
listen.
basically, there was pointless speaking to them afterwards. So
Very good. Very good. That
and
is actually
also and also he was not the right patra for it.
correct.
Arjuna was the one,
So why didn't Krishna tell Arjuna before the war? Why only on the battlefield?
because that's where he was not ready to follow his dharma. That was his dharma to follow, so he was need, and that's why he was needed this. Otherwise there would have been no war. He was ready to give up
Right.
and go to forest.
No, no, he could have told,
Because
fight, O Arjuna.
at the time of war, Arjuna surrendered himself to God.
Very good. Very good. I think between the two of you, you answered it perfectly. So for Duryodhana, the main thing was at one point, Krishna actually talks to Duryodhana and gives him advice during the Sandhi. And Duryodhana gives a reply back. Janami dharmam nachame pravritti. Janam yadharman nachame nivritti. Meaning, I know dharma, but I have no interest in following it. Janami adharmam. I know what is adharma also, but I have no interest in giving it up. So thank you for your advice, but I don't want your advice. So that's why apatra, like you said, the apatra, you cannot convince a person who is not ready to be convinced. So same thing here when we start the Gita, if we are starting with a mindset of resistance as to, okay, Bhagavad Gita is not for me, I'll just come and see, and we'll see what it happens. So that's not the right mindset for learning. You have to have a learning mindset, and there's a fixed mindset and there's a learning mindset. If you are having the learning mindset, you can gain more from the Bhagavad Gita, number one. And the second one, also perfectly answered, was why did Krishna not teach Arjuna before the war? Forget before the war. Even in the first chapter, Bhagavan doesn't open his mouth. Arjuna is crying, he's lamenting, he's talking about all the, Vinash and Varna Sangraha and all those things. But Bhagavan doesn't talk. It is only when Arjuna says, Sishyasteham Shadimam Twam Prapannam, right? And at one point, Arjuna says, I'm going to keep quiet because I cannot solve my problem. I'm your Sishya. Now you tell me what is great for me, what is good for me. And only then Bhagavan started talking. Ashocyanam, Vashochastum, all those things. Right? So also, when you have full self-surrender and when you really want to learn, then Gita, God is always ready to help you. When I say God, Bhagavan is ready to help you constantly. Gurus are ready to help you constantly. The question is how much you open your heart. That's all it is. Right? And the last question, which we'll answer on the next page, is Bhagavan, his, the 20th century problem versus current problem. The problems that was there, 5,000 or 10,000 or 15,000 years ago is still there. Human problems have not changed as much. Human comforts have changed, and the way we communicate has changed, but the way we feel has not changed, right? So the stress and attachment that we have now is pretty much the same as it was like 5,000 or 10,000 years ago. So if you do feel the stress, you have confusion in your life, you have attachment, anger and frustration, all those things can be addressed by the Bhagavad Gita. Now, hold on to your question. I'll come to that. Any sadness, chaos, lack of self-esteem and self-worth, all these things automatically will be addressed by the Bhagavad Gita because we gain emotional maturity, right? Spiritual maturity sets in. Will the problems go away? Probably not. But the attitude with which you see a problem will go away. Meaning, there is a problem. Currently, let's say you're saying, why me? Like why is, I've got so much problems, and why am I picked? What did I do? That will change into, there is a problem, let me see how I can tackle it, and let me see how I can analyze and resolve it. Or if I cannot resolve it, how do I accept it? Either way, your mind will be very calm and clear. And that's how you go from a chaotic mind to a yogic mind. So that transition happens not at the first listening of the Gita, but as you understand the Gita and start implementing it. And we will talk about implementation soon. Okay. Now, here I want to talk to you about Bhashya, meaning, why can't I just pick up a dictionary and then learn the Gita? Many people, read, you have your English translations. There'll be an Eknath Ishwaran, or there'll be a Rabindranath Tagore version, or a Mahatma Gandhi version, or a Gokhale version. They are all not parampara based translators. They are only translators. They're not bhashyakaras, no acharyas. You need a very parampara based system, because the authenticity that is offered by a guru parampara or a guru sishya sampradaya cannot be gotten by just somebody who's walking on the street who just imagines things. And let's say I'm a barber. I will write Bhagavad Gita translation based on a barber's way of thinking. If I am a finance manager sitting in some investment banker, I'll start writing the translation based on that bias. Whereas the correct, because it's all Sanskrit, right? So you have to know the if and but and the context of the words, and that comes from a very parampara based system. Now I have a game for all of you. You can unmute. So coconut oil, all of us know coconut oil. Okay, coconut oil is made from, really? Okay, coconut. Very good. Coconut. Very nice. Coconut oil is made from a coconut. How about olive oil? Olive oil is made from olives. How about baby oil? Baby oil is made
Of chemicals.
from baby?
It is
No.
for baby. It is
For
for
babies.
baby.
For babies, right? So a bhashyakara would know if there is a from or there is a for. Like now we live in this world where we have baby oil and coconut oil. Therefore, we know the difference. Say 10,000 years from now, if somebody is reading a book or looking at this, they see coconut oil made from coconuts, then they will think, oh my goodness, 10,000 years ago, people used to make baby oil. Or same thing with, chili powder made from chilies, haldi powder made from haldi, tooth powder made from, no, it's for the tooth. So that kind of differences, right? Also, when you go deeper, Atma in the Bhagavad Gita could mean the Jivatma at some point. I mean, some of the shlokas, Atma means Jivatma. In some, it will also mean Paramatma. Or it might not even mean Atma. Sometimes it will mean Antakarana, or it will just mean the self, you and I, like that. Atmanyev, Atmanatishta, all those things. How do I know the difference? So one of the examples is, if a father asks a son to bring water, he says, bring water. What will the son do? He'll get a water in a cup. Now, father says, drink that water. And the son, so when you say water, it is understood that it is water and the cup should be bought. When you say drink the water, it is understood only the water should be drunk, not the cup. Correct? So these are all grammatical usages that is preserved through a parampara system from the Gita or the Brahma Sutra and other things, which is not directly evident to Western or non-dharmic or non-parampara based translators. So that's why it's very dangerous to pick up a book off a shelf of a non-parampara based translator and expect yourself to know Gita, right? And you have many of the Western translators who even make mistranslations to a level where people are very unhappy with it. I won't go into that, but just to know that translations should be from a very parampara based system. Otherwise, it will be anartha ho jayega. Okay. And a good translation also establishes arguments and words of Purva Paksha. Now, what do I mean by this is, I used to think Bhagavad Gita is a set of shlokas, bada, 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 done. But really speaking, Between two shlokas, first shloka and some x shloka and x plus 1 shloka, there is a continuity. Okay, so Bhagavan says, karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbur ma te sangos tvakarmani. Now, in Arjuna's mind, there will be a question or a counter question or a doubt. Okay, the next shloka automatically addresses that implicit doubt or implicit question. That's how the Gita is written. Or any of our parampara based shlokas and major works are written with that in mind. It's a very high sequence, and a sutrakara or a bhashyakara should establish why this shloka comes before, or wherever it's placed. Let's say fifth shloka, why does it come exactly after fourth, and why does it come exactly before the sixth? So that place value is a must. And if Bhagavan calls Arjuna as a Partha, or as a Kaunteya, or as something else, even those tiny things have a very high significance in the flow of the Gita. All this you will miss out if you don't read a bhashya. Okay, so that is why bhashya based or a parampara based system is extremely important. Now, the one that I love, we have a lot of bhashyas at home, but the one that I wanted to point out is the one by Swami Madhusudan Saraswati. Okay, how many of you have heard of him, Swami Madhusudan Saraswati? Okay, have you heard of Gita Dhyan Shloka? Partaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata. Some of you might have heard, right? So Madhusudan Saraswati Maharaj is the one who is an Advaiti. He wanted to be a Dvaiti. He wanted to be the disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But some reasons he just ended up becoming an Advaiti. But till the end, he was a hardcore Bhakta. So he had written one of the most wonderful Deepikas called the Gudartha Deepika, Bhagavad Gita Gudartha Deepika, meaning that light which brings out all the hidden meanings of the Gita. And it is based off Adi Shankaracharya's Bhashya. The reason I wanted you to know all these things is in one picture, this is national integration here. So if you can see my mouse, can you see my mouse move? Yeah.
Yes, we
Okay.
can. Yeah.
Perfect. So the speaker here is Shri Bhagavan, or even if you take it as Krishna, he is a person from UP who settled in Gujarat. Arjuna listener is from Delhi. Sanjana also from Delhi, Hastinapur. And the composer, who is Krishna Dvaipayana or Vyasa, is from Himachal Pradesh. The Bhashyakara, who is Adi Shankaracharya, is from Kerala. Tika Anandagiri is somewhere, I think, from Orissa or Madhya Pradesh, somewhere there. And Madhusudan Saraswati Maharaj, he is from Bengal, who settled in Varanasi. So nowadays we talk about north versus south, east versus west, right? So there is no North India, South India, nothing. The entire India was working together as one on dharma. So that is how ancient India was always there till 1956 when the linguistic based states were formed. Now it's all regionalism and all those, it's a different India. But when you think of all this, even one Bhagavad Gita will teach you how integrated the entire Bharat was. Ek Bharat, Shresht Bharat, right? And as we go, I won't go too deep into the Gudartha Deepika, but we will be very inspired by the Bhashya, Gudartha Deepika, and get you as much productive knowledge of the Gita. And like we said about the Dharmic education model, we'll go from piece by piece into more combined advanced levels. Okay. In the interest of time, I just wanted to make it quicker. I don't want to go too much back and forth. So many people ask, is Gita relevant in a scientific world? Okay. Let us hear what scientists and Gita, Bhagavad Gita, or scientists and thinkers say about the Gita. If I, the durbhagya of Indians are, if a Swamiji tells or Maharaj tells, nobody will listen to it. If a Gora tells you, oh, very good, you're happy. So I'll start with that only. These are all great people from 18th or 19th century US. And this is Ralph Waldo Emerson, a great thinker, who said Bhagavad Gita is like an empire of thought. And its philosophical teachings, Krishna has all the attributes of a full-fledged monotheistic deity, and at the same time the attributes of an Upanishadic absolute, meaning Parabrahma. These are all people who have read the Gita. And another great person, Heisenberg. Now, most of the kids will know because Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. He's a physicist. He's a quantum physicist, and he talked about after conversations about Indian philosophy, some of the ideas of quantum physics that seemed crazy suddenly make more sense. And I'll show you some more scientists or physicists who actually have read the Gita and were so impressed. Erwin Schrödinger. Schrodinger's cat is very famous. So he says, and he also has a paper on what is life in 1944, which talks about Vedanta. So Vedanta teaches that consciousness is singular. So he talks about the singularity of Atma and the lack of multiplicity of the self. And Niels Bohr, most of you know from the Bohr's model of the atom. And he says, I go to the Upanishad to ask questions. I mean, this is one quote, but he has said more. And you have Henry Thoreau. You can read this later. I'll send this out in the WhatsApp group. But the idea is there are so many scientists who talk very highly of the Gita, who have themselves read it and have benefited from it. Nikola Tesla is one of them who Swami Vivekananda was a friend of Nikola Tesla, and they've exchanged letters. And the idea that some of the ideas he got is from the idea of prana and akasha. And this is all said in, if you go to Nikola Tesla website, not the car, but the scientist website, you'll see about the letters from Swami Vivekananda. Okay. Now, having said that, because we have only 10 more minutes, what we will do is start with shloka chanting, then we'll do a chapter summary, and from time to time, probably once a month or once in 2 months, we'll go a deep dive, like a workshop on stress, anger management, or leadership. Sometimes we'll go into varna vyavastha and ashrama vyavastha and those kind of things. We'll see, but it depends purely upon you, your interest, because you're the hero of this entire thing. So you let me know, and we'll start with shloka chapter summary. We'll have discussions, and then we'll do deep dives from time to time. Okay. And the way I want to sequence this is from chapter 16. Chapter 2 will give a high level summary. Then we'll start off with chapter 16, which is Deva Asurat Sampat Vibhaga Yoga, the qualities of Devas and Asuras. The reason I want to do that is everybody understands qualities, self-awareness. Like I said, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna takes you from the known to the unknown. So the first three I'm talking about, 16, 14, 17, will give you complete self-awareness. It's like a check mark. You tick. So these are the qualities I have, and these are the qualities I need to cultivate, or these are the qualities I need to give up, right? So asuric qualities you need to give up. Dhaivi qualities either you have or you need to cultivate. So the moment you start doing this, your adhikaritva, meaning as a person you develop, and you get more and more involved with understanding the subtleties of Gita. So Deva Asura Sampat. Then you have the Triguna. Triguna also talks about the three gunas of diet, about dhana, karma, worship, and how to live and breathe, and all those things is there. And last is the dedication, which is Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga. And then we'll talk about meditation, which is chapter 6, which is Dhyana Yoga, right? Or Atma Samyam. And then we'll come into the karma, the bhakti, and the jnana, and then we'll conclude it. So depending on how much interest the group has and how we go, we'll start experimenting with the pace also. Is that good, everybody? Or any questions on that side?
Why chapter 1 is not included?
Chapter 1 is about okay, chapter 1 is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga, and it is all about Arjuna's lamentation. We have enough stress in our life. We don't have to learn chapter 1 to cry. Crying we have enough. Chapter 2 onwards is Bhagavan's solutions. That's why chapter 1 we can do it for curiosity, but really speaking in the context of learning Gita. Chapter 1 you can read it once. Chapter 2 to 18 is really the essence. And all of you, chapter 2 is the Bhagavad Gita. Like chapter 2 is the be all end all. 3 to 18 is the Bhashya of the Gita, or the expansion of chapter 2. Concepts that come in chapter 2 are expanded into the rest 16 chapters. Okay.
So which version of, as you already mentioned, there are so many translations and whatnot. So which one do you recommend?
No. Okay. In my case, my father taught me. Okay. So that's how I learned sitting at his feet. That's how he taught me. There's so many versions, and you know, the moment you start going into versions, it'll you can go into, but the one I recommend is Gudartha Deepika. Uh, you give it a try, but unfortunately, it is so you know uh, it's not easy to read in the first
Right.
to
Do you have
digest.
any comment for the version which Gita Press Gorakhpur
That's also
publishes?
a good one. Gita Press is good. Like it gives you Gita Press Gorakhpur gives you unidimensional meaning. Good Artha Deepika gives you like a deep meaning, right? So if you want to know the literal meanings and like high level, Gita Press is fantastic. Ramakrishna Math is also very good.
I find it very hard to read the one which ISKCON publishes.
Okay, okay. So each one, like I said, like piecemeal, will start going one by one, and then in our discussions, you'll start seeing that there's no one dimension to any of the shlokas, right? And
Thank you.
yeah, like for me, it was Ramakrishna Math, or my father when my father read it, and all my Sanskrit learning happened while I was listening to the Gita, because the word and the meaning familiarity comes throughout, right? So you the more and more you learn the Gita with the meaning, you'll start learning Sanskrit also. It becomes easier to read other texts also. Okay. So what I thought initially was I would be finishing this off soon, and then we'll do with the Parthaya Pratibodhitam. Probably next session we'll start with Parthaya Pratibodhitam, which is the Gita Dhyana Shloka, and then do a chapter 2 summary, which is the Bhagavad Gita summary. Okay. So at this point, I'll open it up for any questions or comments. If you like it, if you don't like it, whatever comment, it'll help me to improve this as we go forward.
Do they use Bhagavad Gita in the court?
In the court in India, I'm
Yeah.
not, yeah, they do. Basically, even Tulsi Gabbard or some of the people in the US, the senators who took office, when they swear into the position, they make a oath on the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
Thank you for that question. Wonderful question.
Sundarji, you said that somebody needs to remind you about 4 Mahakavyas.
Oh, yes, for
Mahavakyas,
Mahavakyas.
sorry.
Mahavakyas.
Mahavakya.
Okay, good thing. So all of us know that there are 4 Vedas, and each Veda at the end of it has a Upanishad, right? Rig Veda Upanishad, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda Upanishad, and each Upanishad has a Mahavakya. Mahavakya is like the top Vakya that leads you into knowledge, and the 4 are Prajnanam Brahma, Ayam Atma Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi, and Tattvamasi. Okay. So, Ayam Atma Brahma is from the Atharva Veda or the Mandukya Upanishad. Then you have Tattvamasi from Chandogya, and then Prajnanam Brahma from Rig, and what is the other one? Aham Brahmasmi from the Yajur Veda. So the thing is, these are not 4 disconnected words. They're from 4 Vedas. But I'll give you a simple mathematical equation. A equals B. B equals C. Therefore, A equals what?
C.
C, right? Okay, now with that in mind, you will see I am Atma Brahma. This Atma is Brahma. Okay. Prajnanam Brahma. What is Prajnanam? Prajnanam is consciousness. It's more than consciousness, but English word, let's adjust with that. The entire awareness, big awareness of the universe level awareness is Prajnanam. Prajnanam Brahma. Prajnanam is Brahma. This Atma is Brahma. Therefore, Prajnanam is Atma. Aham Brahmasmi. I am also Brahma. So Prajnanam equals Atma equals me. So I am Prajnanam, I am Atma. Once you understand this, the Guru tells the Sishya, Tat Tvamasi, you are also that. Right? That is how it works. The 4 Mahavakyas together are talking about exactly the same subject, which is my identification with Atma. And unfortunately, when I say unfortunately or fortunately, we are all in that delusion of I am limited. That's why you have books like, Think and Grow Rich and all those things, changing the world with your mind, a new age and all. Bhagavad Gita already says, with your thought, you can change your reality. With your thought, you can higher yourself or lower yourself. Uddharet atman atmanam, atman na atmanam avasadayat, right? So all this will start learning as we go. But for now, just know that there is a huge consistency across the Vedas. Whichever part of Veda you take, it doesn't contradict with any other part. Okay, that is the Mahavakyas. Any other question or any other comments on how we can improve this?
Is there any chance we can change time to the from weekend to weekdays, if possible, any evening? Is there any chance?
Suggested
Weekends.
time. Monday nights don't work for me, but I leave it to everybody else. So we can put that as poll, right?
Okay, yeah, that would be nice, because weekend I love to be part of this sessions, but I usually work for week. Today, luckily, I was not working.
Okay.
Usually I work over the weekends.
So I'll leave it to the NAHA admins to answer that question or take it up as a separate this one. But good suggestion. Thank you.
Neeraj ji, we will take a poll on the WhatsApp group.
That would be nice, Mona. Thank you very much.
Anything else, Ji?
I believe we are going out of the time now.
So one question I have for everybody.
Yes.
What do you think of the session itself and the pace with which we are going? Is it boring? Is it too much? Is it right paced?
No, it's interesting.
Awesome.
It's interesting. It's great. It's interesting and great.
Thank you.
5-star.
Thank you. And on the forum, I'll also start putting in.
Monaj, you can unmute everyone. Mute.
Yeah, somebody has.
Everyone.
Yeah. So on the forum, I'll send out the Mool Gita Shlok and also the Gita Dhyan Shlok. So over to you, Mrityunjay ji, for the
We'll do that.
You are mute, Mrityunjay ji.
Yeah, Mrityunjay ji, you're muted.
Monaji, so now we can go with the Ved mantra, and I will be sharing the screen, and then we'll be ending up with that. Okay?
Sure.
Yes. So thank you so much, everyone. It was really wonderful, and I hope he has lit up that light inside everyone's life. So let's begin this journey. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll be having that mantras now, and then we'll be ending up with that. Thank you. Yes.
To end the mantra, this will be, I will sing it on my own. Please unmute yourself. It will be lead and follow for the mantra. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam.
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam
Purnat Purnamudachyate.
Purnat Purnamudachyate
Purnasya Purnamadaya.
Purnasya Purnamadaya
Purnamevavashishyate.
Purnamevavashishyate.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Namaskar, everyone.
Namaskar, everyone. Thank you very much,
Namaskar.
everybody, to join. From next time, we will just request that, if possible, please come on the video so that Sundarji can also interact one-to-one with all of us wherever possible. This is very wonderful. Thank you, Sundarji.
Thank you, Ji.
There is also request, people, join these sessions. Kindly find a quiet place. This is a very important topic. And if you are not able to find quiet place, probably stay mute. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sundarji.
Hari Om Pranam Ji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Shubh Kamna to all of you. Thank you.